What up, though? I'm DJ Smithsonian, and you're now tuning into another episode of The Library.
Man, my topic of talking those to keep it hooked like dope. Let the ship so hard in these censorship. Damn, God, you're killing it.
Brought to you by Appraise The Phrase podcast and Rap Geo. Here we discuss hip-hop's relationship with language, how hip-hop manipulates language, and how hip-hop creates its own language. And today we're gonna discuss one of my favorite phenomena in hip-hop, and that's when you use something from one song and create an entirely different song, not just from sampling, but also using the lyrics to, create a new idea from an old idea. We're gonna call this one Hotline the Hot Song.
Man, my topic of talking those to keep it hooked like dope. Let the ship so hard in these censorship. Damn, God.
And of course, this is based on, if you remember, the beef between Jay-Z and Nas, probably about 20 years. It's been 20 years now. In one of Jay-Z's songs against Nas called The Takeover, that was on 2001's The Blueprint, he mentioned in his bars, "Yeah, I sampled your voice, you was using it wrong. You made it a hot line, I made it a hot song." Now, Jay-Z wasn't the first person to do this. We're gonna talk a little bit about what Jay-Z did and how this ended up in one of his bars, but also we're gonna explore a couple other times where this has happened. And Jay-Z really did put this on a different level. But so if you notice, my setup has kind of changed. You might say, "Man, Smithsonian, I thought you was a DJ. Like, why do you got all these broken records all over the place?" Well, I'm not the one breaking records in this house. My wife is. And don't worry, she bought, these are her records that she bought. She takes these records, breaks them, and then turns them into these nice little fancy earrings here. So she's got a situation going on with my sister-in-law. They call it Got Music, music with a Z, GOT music, where they make earrings out of records from my collection, records that they buy. She finds all these color discs. Check it out. Get a pair for your woman lady, or if you are a woman lady and you like earrings, go ahead and get you a pair. They're great. Find them in Walmart and a whole bunch of other places. But I digress. Taking a hot line and turning it into a hot song. So, Jay-Z's rib against Nas originally came from when Nas mentioned in their beef that Jay-Z used one of his lines in one of his rap songs. And the song that we're talking about is Jay-Z's Dead Presidents. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for dead fucking presidents to represent me. So now that song, that song, if you remember, that was the hook of that song for Dead Presidents, both 1 and 2. But it originally came from a song that dropped 2 years earlier. So on Nas's debut album, 1994's Illmatic, on the Pete Rock joint, The World Is Yours, Nas closes out one of his verses with that iconic line, "I'm out for presidents to represent me, say what?" And then 2 years later, Jay-Z, it ends up as the hook on one of Jay-Z's songs, Dead Presidents, both part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is the one that actually made it onto Reasonable Doubt. Part 1 was its own single by itself. Now this is back when they had maxi singles, when you'd go cop a record or cop a CD and it'll have several different versions of the song. You might even get the acapella, you might even get the instrumental, all as a part of one disc. Of course, you don't really see that no more in this digital age, but it's something to reminisce on. And so Jay-Z in this track, produced by Beatz, another one of my favorite producers of all time, And we're gonna highlight some of Ski Beatz' other joints as we continue talking about stuff in the library, not just this episode, but I mean, he's a very prolific beat maker. So the whole song is about money, how I'm out chasing paper, how I'm out looking for the dead presidents. We know dead presidents is a term for money, even though probably the most ubiquitous bill mentioned in hip hop, Benjamin Franklin, has a face on it that's not a president, but you know, who else was paying attention to history class but me? That's good. So, now does Jay-Z do a good job? I mean, you know, we think about some of these lines, stack cheddars forever, live treacherous, all the etceteras. You know, by the ounce, dough accumulates not like snow. We don't just shine, we illuminate the whole show. You feel me? I mean, that bar in itself where, you know, by the ounce, dough accumulates not snow. So it's a couple double entendres in there because, you know, Jay-Z in his career talks about his history as a drug dealer. So by the ounce, you know, a reference to, you know, how drugs are sold and packaged by weight. Accumulates like snow. Money accumulates like snow. That could be a reference to New York winters. That could be references to cocaine. Cocaine also has the nickname Snow. And then we don't just shine, we illuminate the whole show. Now this is the mid-90s where we're getting into the shiny suit era, the jiggy era, however you want to call it, where hip hop becomes flashier. So, you know, we're wearing more jewelry, more chains, you know, chrome rims, shiny cars, things like that. He says, we don't just shine, which could be a reference to, you know, like shine being the clothes, the chains, the accessories you have, but we illuminate the whole show so nobody outshines us. So that's kind of where that came from, but let's highlight two other songs where we see the same phenomenon. The next one that I'm gonna talk about is, you know, one of my favorite songs. If you're from the South, especially if you're from Texas, you're gonna love both of these joints. And the hot line that I'm talking about is swang and a swang and a swang to the left. Pop my trunk, then dip, dip, dip. Now, that came from Fat Pat's verse on DMD's 25 Lighters. 25 lighters on my dresser, yes sir. I got to get paid. And the verdict is kind of out on what he says at the end. I mean, when I hear it, you know, I hear and yep. You know, one website, one lyric website says he says dip. The other one, and Genius says Genius says dip. Original Hip Hop Lyric Archive says he says give. I don't know. So I know I'm out here. I live in Houston now. I'm originally from Detroit, but I'm gonna start exploring that. Like, I want to know what he really said. And if you know what he really said, let me know. I will gladly do like a part 2 for this particular episode to deconstruct Fat Pat's lyrics even further. Now, 25 Lighters was on DJ DMD's album 22 PA Worldwide. PA standing for Port Arthur, Texas, which ain't that far from here in Houston. And it's also the home of the Underground Kings, UGK. Rest in peace to the pimp. And that song, I mean, it's a Southern anthem. It's a Houston anthem, Texas anthem. But I mean, even if you weren't from there, like, you know about 25 lighters on my dresser. Yes, sir. I got to get paid. Man, look, I can't even I'll start singing this motherfucker right now. I'll fire up the turntable, start playing it. But, you know, I digress. So where did the hot song come in? Now, in 2006, almost 20 years after 25 Lighters, Houston artist Trae The Truth dropped a joint called Swang off of his Restless album in 2006. And it features both Trae and Big Hawk. And not only do they chop up this particular line, but they open up the song with pieces of Fat Pat's verse from 25 Lighters, because this song is a dedication to Fat Pat and also a dedication to Houston culture, swanging culture. So if you haven't been around, if you're not sure, if you're not certain, look it up. Slab culture, which is Houston's car culture, slow, loud, and banging. And it's known notoriously for swinging, swerving, lane to lane, slowly, so everybody can see you. And it's ubiquitous in a lot of Houston rap videos. One of the ones that I remember most from, kind of my era when I was growing up was Mike Jones is Still Tipping. And that shows like a lot of the swinging culture. But him, Paul Wall, Slim Thug, like in their music videos, they really highlighted that culture for a guy in Detroit like me that had no idea what was going on. I mean, Detroit culture is more about the muscle cars and, a little bit of some sound system culture, but we weren't swinging like they were swinging down here in Texas. And even if you go further into the verse, Big Hawk's verse is a straight up dedication to Fat Pat, DJ Screw, the brothers that they've lost, that they wish that they would be here to see and witness, the culture and see where it is now. So it's a great dedication to Fat Pat, great dedication to Houston hip hop. And the third one that we're gonna talk about, what happens when an artist samples themselves. And you could say they sampled themselves, but they also probably had a little bit of help because a lot of this was done posthumously. So the hot line that I'm gonna talk about, you may remember it. It's from a song in 1997 called Notorious Thugs. Spit your game, talk your shit, grab your gat, call your click, squeeze your clip, hit the right one, pass that weed, it got to like one. Off Notorious Thugs. Off of Biggie's, of course, Life After Death was released shortly after Biggie's unfortunate early death. And this song with Bone Thugs and Harmony was the first track on disc 2, I believe. And growing up as a fan of Bone Thugs and Harmony, like when I heard that, because between Bone Thugs and Twista, Speed Not Mobsters and Do or Die, like the Chicago fast rappers and the Cleveland fast rappers, like it was always that competition. Like you talk about it in high school, like who's the fastest, who had the illest fast verse and all of that stuff. And then when Biggie hopped on Notorious Thugs with Bone, rode the beat, rapped as fast and as a cadence that matched Bone Thugs and Harmony, it was crazy. It was crazy because Biggie had never rapped in that kind of speed and that kind of style before. At least not on the mainstream records. I don't know. He might have did it on mixtapes or something like that prior to, but it was completely out of the water. And I mean, when he came out with this verse, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that don't like this verse. Go into your friends group. I dare you, especially if you're around my age. Like, I'm 36, so if you're in your mid 30s and you remember this, when you're just chilling with friends, just out of the blue, just go armed and dangerous. Ain't too many can bang with us. Straight up, we know Angel does. Label us Notorious and see if they pick up. See if they start rapping it with you. I know my friends probably would because that's our fucking shit. So that hot line eventually becomes a hot song in Biggie's second posthumous record, the Biggie Duets, that dropped in 2005. Swizz Beatz chops up that same line for the song Spit Your Game. And Spit Your Game, of course, they highlight Biggie's verse. They kind of replicate Biggie's entire verse, for that song. But it also features two features. And of course it is, through the aforementioned artists that I was talking about, Twista and Crazy Bone. So now they're going back and forth. They're spinning, and this whole thing is a dedication to Biggie. If you haven't heard the Biggie Duets is actually a pretty solid album. You had, the hottest MCs at the time, all pairing up with Biggie verses, making new versions of classic tracks. And I think it was a very, tastefully done dedication to one of the latest, greatest artists. And if Biggie's on your GOAT list, I don't blame you. I don't blame you 1 second, because you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that ain't got him in his top 5. So those are the 3 joints that I wanted to mention where we take a hot line and turn it into a hot song. And this is a segment that we'll keep doing. Next time I'll have 3 more joints. But, you know, we'd love to get your feedback, you know, whether it's in the comments, whether you share it and give your opinions. You know, if you see me talking about this shit on Twitter and you chime in, we'd love to know. Out of these three, you know, Jay-Z's Dead Presidents, Trae's Swang, and Biggie's Spit Your Game, which of the three do you think was the best version of taking a hot line and turning it into a hot song? Would love to get your feedback on it. Once again, I'm DJ Smithsonian. You've been tuning into the library, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.